this is the time the Lord has made. This is the time the Lord has made. Everything has its season and time to every purpose under heaven. This is what it says, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. The word Ecclesiastes means the preacher, and is the word that comes, it's also the word that it comes, the word ecclesia. And then with ecclesia you have ecclesia, which is church. And Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, and until today he is the wisest man that ever exists. And he dared to say that everything has its season and a time to every purpose under heaven. And I start writing that there is an occasion and there is a time for each purpose. In other words, for everything. Now you guys are in a stage of your lives. Okay, maybe I want to address more the people that are in a rehab. But of course the other people that come and visit us and are members of this congregation every Sunday, and they are not part of the community, in other words, that live in the community, even you, for sure, you are in a stage of your life that is a season, a specific stage, a specific season with a purpose. For each activity that we will have to live, there is a purpose for each activity that we will have to live. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28 says that all things work for good for those that love God and are called according with His purpose. So this is a good New Testamentary verse to connect with this Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. In other words, everything that happens to us, it has a purpose, even though that there is two conditions out there. In the Romans 8:28, it says that all things work for good, but for those, it says, for those that love God, and also for those that are called according with His purpose. In other words, for those that do not love God, and for those that are not called according with His purpose, all things, they don't work for good. They work in a random way. With those that love God above all things, or that love God and are called according with His purpose, this God has the control above everything that happens in their lives, and He will make it resulting in a good thing. I can say that I could say now, unfortunately, I never went to the military school. There is a difference between military school and army. Army, in my time, 79, that I born in 79, actually the ones born in 79, we were the last year that we need to go to the army in a compulsory way. Then people that born in 1980, they didn't have to go. It was a choice for them. But I needed to go compulsory. I needed to go and do the military, and I did. But before that, when I was a child, on my 10 years old, more or less, 8, I was supposed to go to the military school. That is a high rank. That only people that their stepfather, their grandfathers or great-grandfathers went there. So because of your name, you are entitled to go. So I have a name that I should be entitled to go. Then I never went due to the mistakes of my parents. They also were on all these things of drugs, alcohol, drug dealing, what. Even though that my mom comes from a very healthy family, very good families with name and blood and what, all these things. But because of her mistakes and the mistakes of my stepfather and then, I never went to the military school with the thousands of excuses. I mean, when I found myself that I should go, maybe I was 12. Now it's too late, you can't even go. So I didn't went. So for a few years I thought, you know what, I should go. Maybe I lost a huge opportunity, not. I would be a captain, a colonel, a marshal, something like that, because that would be the future. But then, with the time with God, I understood that if I would went to the military school, I'm telling you now, I will never become a believer eventually. And even if I will become, I could never serve God as I serve, because I had that career from birth that eventually I wouldn't deny. So all those mistakes of my mom, dad, they result in something that God used and said, you know what, this is bad, this is not good, but I'm going to use this in order to something greater occur in your life. And many times we are not capable of have this type of sight. We look to the problem as a problem without solution. But the solution of God many times is not your solution. You know, for a person that is sitting in a wheelchair, maybe it says, you know what, the solution for my life, it will be walking. But God might say, you know what, for the solution for your life is that I can use you for my honor and glory in your wheelchair, with your testimony, and. And that could be, we could use many other examples. There are seasons in your life that we want to pass more quickly and others that we want to stay in them longer. If we go on vacations, a week it looks like 3 days or 2 days, or a month it looks like a week. Pastor Dario and Sarah last year they went to Portugal to visit a family, to visit because it's their home, like it's my home, and they say that those 20 days they look like not even a week. It was like very quick. Why? Because those good days that you want then to be a season where it take longer, you want it to go quickly, and sometimes what you want quickly, it takes longer. Maybe you are in that stage, maybe you are in rehab, and because eventually your heart is outside, for example, you think that this is taking too long. I don't know if I can afford 6 months. 1 year, they speak about a year. No, 1 year it's too much. Yeah. 1 year is not too much because you either invest your time properly or you lose your many other years of your life. So, Pastor, for how long you were in recovery or in rehab? By my choice, I did another 3 or 4 years. But that was me. I understood that, or I do this once, or I'm going to do like many others in Remark, Bethel, in the Reto, Teen Challenge, and I'm going to do this forever. In and out, in and out, in and out. And I'm going to break myself down until then it's too late. So either I do this in one shot, and if I have to invest this time, I will. In Portuguese, I don't know in English, in your culture, but in our culture in Portuguese, we say that time is money. Time is money. So if you invest time, you are actually investing money. By definition and biological. So there are seasons in our life that we want to pass more quickly and others that we want to stay in them longer. Every season has a beginning and a end. And every season has a purpose. We must enter with the beginning. It's something that it either is compulsory, either is a decision. We are speaking about people in rehab. So you had a beginning that eventually was a choice of yours or was compulsory. Somebody lead you without a choice, and you have no choice you have to do it. Even if it wasn't a person, but the circumstances lead you to say, you know what, I'm rock bottom, out of this I cannot walk no more. I need something to change my life. So it could be compulsory or could be a choice that you did. You know what, I really need to do this. I no longer want to stay in this position. And in the end of the day, this is the beginning, but the end, you should not define the end on anything. The end is defined by God. And we cannot forget that all this is the season that we are into. For example, I am in a season right now. You are in a season right now. This season, it looks like that is the same of the other, but it is not. There is different seasons for everything. So in the season that we are right now, the Lord says, you know what? I have a purpose behind the season. So persevere in the season because I have a purpose. In the verse 11 of the chapter we read, the chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, also says that God made everything beautiful in its time. And when it says that He made everything beautiful in its time, it's also because of His eyes, the way He sees. He does not see the beginning, He also sees the end. So what might not be great for you, it is great for Him. That's why He says that God made everything beautiful in its time. When He says its time, it says the time of God. And the time of God has no beginning, has no end. We have. That's why this is called a chronos. Many watches before, in my old days, you'll read in the middle chronos with double N. I never knew what was that. Now I know that is the Greek word for the time of man. But God does not live in chronos. We must not place him in our level. He lives in Kairos, with a K. Kairos. Kairos means the time of God, or the eternal time of God. So when he says God made everything beautiful in its time, he sees it all. He doesn't see the beginning, he doesn't see the end. He sees it all. And he sees it all as beautiful. Even the process that you don't like. Even those moments that brings you that sorrow and that sadness. He sees it all. And he says, I made everything beautiful in my time. Problems happen when we don't accept his time. When you don't accept, or the time of God is when the problems start coming. Because the time of God, it's a place that you set your feet. It's like faith. Faith is a foundation. It's a place where you put your feet. So time of God is also the same. You set your feet in that foundation and you just wait. It's not enough to say, let your will be done. It's not enough to pray, let your will be done. It's enough for you and I to allow the will of God to be done. And for me to allow the will of God to be done, I need to accept his time. Without forgetting that he doesn't really have a time because he is the master of time. So he doesn't have a watch to say, I need to go and have lunch. He doesn't lunch. He doesn't need it. It's powerful. Almighty. He doesn't need to regain energy. He is energy. He doesn't need to regain power. He is power. He doesn't need to reboot. Doesn't need. It's continually rebooted. He's always powerful. It doesn't come lower. There is no power on this universe that can compare with God because he created the universe. So problems happen when we don't accept his time, when we don't know how to wait, when we get ahead of ourselves or when we fall asleep in God's time. I usually say that we are in a generation microwave. We were speaking about rehab. The rehab is like you put your program in a microwave, you set the time for 3 minutes and it's done. In many cases, most of the people that are coming, they set the time for 6 months and then they come. 6 months program are the programs of the government. Were they on drugs? No. They read a few things here and there. They study psychology. They study whatever they want to study. But were they on drugs? No. What is the benefit of a ministry like Rimar or Bethel or Red, for example? Is that the people that run the ministry are people that they were on drugs. So they have authority to speak and address and say, you know what? You can't just set your time on your microwave to 6 months. You must set your time for much longer. And in the end of the day, or you say, you know what? I'm not going to put my program into a microwave. I will allow God to run my program in my behalf. In my behalf. So we fall asleep in God's time. I would like today to illustrate with part of the story of the prodigal son that is written in Luke chapter 15. I'm going to read first and foremost verse 12. But you can stay in the verse in Luke 15. And Luke 15:12 says, Father, give me the share of the goods that belong to me. This is incredible, huh? The share of those goods that did not belong to him. Inheritance, you gain the inheritance when the father died. Okay? So out of the time, like many of us, we do in the church, in the ministry, out of the time, we want the inheritance that yes, is laid ahead prepared for us, but does not belong to us. But the father was a gracious father, and because he was gracious, he says what? He allows him to have this speech. Father, give me the share of the goods that belong to me. It only belonged to him when the father is deceased. It passed away. Until then, it is not belong to us. It is not written, but is implied what the younger son was saying to his father. In other words, he was saying, give it to me and give it to me now. And how many of us we live into now? We want the things and we want now. We can't wait for tomorrow. We can't wait for another day. We can't wait for a few hours. we want and we want now. And in many areas, if the things they don't come now, we become very offended. And you know why? For the addicts, for example, we have this tendency, or we were, some of us, the tendency of the things now, because also when we want the fit, we want now. Also because we can't wait, because the addiction starts, and then we want, and it need to be done now, or otherwise I'm going to have a problem with myself. It need to be now. I was watching a movie a few days ago, not a few days ago, was last Saturday, and a movie that is 1,000 Junkies, and really describes pretty much the life of a drug addict. It was 3 guys in a Volvo, broken as hell, and the whole movie was them in their multiple attempts. It's a very good movie. It really describes very well the life of a drug addict, the multiple attempts of trying to get money, in the ex-wife, in the ex-girlfriend, in the daughter, all of them had somebody that I might get money here and there. And the whole movie was them using the expression, no, we need to hurry up because I'm getting sick. I'm getting sick. What was what? The cold turkey. They were getting into trouble already. Until that, the end of the movie, they finally conclude their task. But that was momentary, because after that, they need to go for another mission of trying to get. And for a person that used to be a drug addict, it's also pleasant to see how mad we were. What kind of life? Drive around or walking around trying to look for the next fit. After that, you wait for that hour or 2 or whatever for that to finish, and then you need to set your shoes again for you to start walking or start making plans again to get that. That's not a life. That is in slavery. It's not a life. So, Father, give me the share of the goods that belong to me. Give it to me now. In reality, we had no right to receive these goods. Just as we have no right to receive so many blessings that God the Father so graciously gives us. It's when you acknowledge that, God blesses me so much, but I don't deserve this much blessings. Sometimes me and Rita, we see the way God blesses this ministry and keeps on blessing, even though that we are sometimes with the difficulties, trials, tribulations, obstacles, and. But sometimes we need to stop and say, we have a very good God, a God that is amazing, that is gracious, and His love lasts forever, and His mercy and His glory. So we have no right to receive these goods, just as we have no right to receive so many blessings that God the Father so graciously gives to us. But here we see the height of what we as children can look forward to. Whatever is something or situation, we want them, and we want them now. We live into the now. Has to be done, and has to be done now. How many people they abandon the ministry? They don't finalize their RIA because it has to be done now. I feel that it's now that I'm ready. We have been running our lives for our feelings, and look where it brought us. In the sense of urgency, let us claim what we are not entitled to. Well, I'm going to read this again. In the sense of urgency, let me claim what I'm not entitled to. Many times we transform occasions, we transform circumstances into urgency. It's major for me to do, or it's major for me to go. But in the end of the day, that urgency I'm not entitled to. I shouldn't act under urgency. I should act under God's will. And God the Father in His goodness gives to us just as the Father did to that Son. But that blessing that in its time will be of a great benefit to our life becomes a burden, just as it happened in the life of that young man who was not prepared to receive what his father gave him. In other words, the inheritance was good. Yes or no? They can come in, Rui, they can come in. As much there is not much noise. So in the end of the day, that man, the young man, he should not receive that blessing which is the inheritance, but in the end of the day, the inheritance was something good, but it became a burden. It became something bad. Because he wanted now. So many times you might see in your life that what you want now, you should have it, imagine, in a year time. And I'm putting a year just as a time frame, okay? You might need in a year time, but because you want now is not the right time. And God deals with you and I in the right time. You read the book of Luke, John, you read the Gospels, and it speaks about the resurrection of Lazarus, isn't it? And Martha and Mary, they were so offended because Jesus came late, came in the wrong time. They did not understood that he was in the right time. He was in the time of God. If he would be there earlier, a few days earlier, 4 days before, because he was deceased for 4 days when Jesus got there, he wouldn't resurrect Lazarus from death, but he will just heal Lazarus from the disease he was having. So when they see Jesus coming after 4 days, they say, "You know what? You came late." Did he came late? No. He came in the right time, in the time that he needed in order to resurrect Lazarus. That's why he says, if you believe, you will see the glory of God. So the glory of God is much bigger, the resurrection of a person, than the healing of someone. So Lazarus rose again. But the biggest miracle there was actually that Jesus Christ, he showed that he is the Lord of time. When all the people, including Mary and Martha, they thought that Jesus was late and that wasn't the right time, he says, "You know what? I am in the right time. I run time myself and I am the Lord of time." So in order for you and I to engage in a better perspective with God, in a better relationship with God, we need to give our time to the Lord and say, "Run the time for me." But that will implicate that things won't happen in your time, in the time that you expect. They will work out in the time of God. It means that even if you wear a watch or you are continually using a phone to check your time, it means that that time won't be valid in most of the areas of your life. It will be valid when you need to go out to work. It will be valid when you need to open the door of the office, or you open a shop, or you need to clean the church, or you need to go and have lunch, for example. It work out. Oh, now it's time to lunch. It's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, whatever. The cook came already and said that the lunch is ready. Now it's a time for me to go and eat. But in most of the areas of your life, the main areas of your life, it won't work out like that. It will be his time. In other words, again, for the people in recovery, in rehab, how it work out? It will work out as, okay, even if I think that now it's time, God, run this time for me. You know when the time is coming. Jesus, when he is with Mary, also the first miracle of Jesus was what? What was the first miracle of Jesus? He transformed water into wine. How many jars were there? Who knows? 8, 7, 12, 15, 30, 50. So he transformed miraculously that water in wine. For many, Jesus would be a great friend. Friend that transform water in wine is, I'm telling you. And the Bible says that was the best wine. And usually the best wine should be the first wine to be served, but in the end of the day, that was the best wine. And when Mary approaches Jesus, complaining, trying to run his time, because this is what many women do. They want to try to run man's time. What do they say? My time is not yet come. What do I have with you, woman? He was addressing Mary as a woman. Was God himself addressing Mary as a woman, as part of his creation? Wasn't Jesus that was made of flesh and blood addressing the mother. No, that was Jesus, God made man addressing a woman, part of his creation. What do I have with you? My time is not yet come. Don't try to come here now and lubricate my thoughts of what I have or what I need to do when my time is not yet come. In other words, Jesus was telling her again that I ran time. I know when is the right time. And time is in my hands. But we want time to be in our hands. We want to run our time. We think that we are lords of time. That's why when we grow up, and with the age of my kids, for example, 11, even 12, it looks like that we still have time. You find people with 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Only when I got to my 26, 27, 28, then when I start saying, you know what? I actually don't control any time in my life, because from my 20s, I was telling Tiago a few days ago, when you get to your 20s, until you're 25, it will be like a bullet. But when you get to from 25 to your 30, it will be flash. You don't even see. It's when you see that I cannot control time. In other words, I always say that time is your worst enemy. Time is worse than the devil, and time is worse than yourself. Because you can't control time. Yesterday you were 20, today you are 30. Yesterday you were 30, tomorrow you are 40. You cannot control time. So this young man, he wasn't prepared to receive what he received. Just as it happened in the life of that young man who was not prepared to receive what his father gave him. And what was a blessing, it became a burden. It will be a blessing if it was given by God in the right time. Here we have a great teaching for our lives. The sense of urgency annihilates trust in God's timing. The sense of urgency. It has to be now. This sense of urgency annihilates God's timing. It breaks the time of God. What God says, that is the right time. Yes, because here the problem was not the goods, or in our case, the blessings that God gives to us, since His desire is to bless. The desire of God is to bless. We come across with a problem when we want the things and we want them now. Before I married Rita, and I met Rita, of course, me and her, we were doing everything in our flesh, everything in our capacity for the time to be quicker. It resulted in what? It resulted in discipline. It resulted that we could not talk to each other. I was in recovery, so they were afraid, either the pastor, even her mother, because I was still in recovery with lots of issues in my life. So, but both of us, we want time we wanted to control. This needs to be done now. I was already a man of God, yet I was already preaching. I was already with a huge transformation in my life, but was still a lot to do. And the time we stopped doing the things in our capacity was the time that the Lord worked in my life individually, worked in her life individually, in my ministry, her ministry, until that in God's time we were put together to work together, and then we start a process of dating, special friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, all these matters. But this happens when we took hands out of controlling time. This needs to be done now. And then we understand now that was the right time, because if it was according with our time, I'm telling you, and I think she knows, we wouldn't be married. We wouldn't. Because we needed to see some stuff in us first. We needed to go through a process. We needed to go through a process of individual process that will show us if we are ready or not to do what we did and to get married and to constitute a family. So He wants to bless us now, He wants to bless us here. But when I say now, is according with His time. His now is not your now. His now is now. He doesn't have a past, He doesn't have a present, He doesn't have a future, because He lives into the eternity. So your now is not His now. The problem is the lack of confidence we have, the anxiety and the feeling of urgency. because they manifest a lack of confidence in God's purpose for your life, which can cause receiving a blessing out of His time to become a heavy burden. I need to find a job. I need to finalize my program, and then I'm going to get a job. You know that the devil can give you a good job as we speak, through your family. Oh, but my family, it's a blessing. They will never. No. Me and Rita will learn very soon in the church. I'm going to be very, very strong in my words, but I have to. The first demonic objection you will have is from your family. The first demonic objection you will have is from your family. They are the first people that the Lord will use to destroy you. Without them knowing that. How many people we deal in the office that the families in their also urgency of taking the child out of, or the son or the daughter out of the rehab. It's an urgency, and I got a job for him or for her. They don't even consult with the leadership. They don't even consult with me or Rita. Nothing. They just take them out because I got a job. And then after they smash their faces in the wall, they come with them again. Some of them, you know what is happening? Was a boy that some of you met, Bushler. The mother did this so many times, then the last time she didn't came with him. She just sent him. You go there and speak with them. They must... Because she knew, Pastor is going to see me and he's going to address me on this matter. And eventually he's right. So some, the families, they don't even come no more. They say, you know what, go there to these guys of Rimar, tell them that you relapse, and we don't want nothing to do with you. Many times I tell to many people that want to leave the ministry, I tell them, you know what, you need to remember that the same people that loved you and take you out of this place are the same people that if you relapse, they're going to bring you back. So it's not that it's demonic because they are evil and they want your... No, it's because He will use, because there is an emotional connection, and all the devil likes to use our emotions and he likes to play with them. An emotional person is a very easy prey in the hands of the devil. Very easy. A person that sees everything emotionally, that is always emotional, that sees everything by the emotional side, and the way I feel, the way my heart is. A person like that, it's a very easy prey for the devil. The devil works in their lives without much work. Because he knows that the person runs already his life according with what it feels, not according what God says, according with the moment that I have, not according what the moment of God or the time of God. As we continue reading the story, we see that his older brother, after the father received the prodigal son, when he saw that the father was preparing a feast for his brother, he became indignant. And his argument was something like, these many years I have served you, and you have not given me a young goat. Let's read Luke chapter 15, verse 25 to 32. And the Bible reads as follows, in the English Standard Version says, now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants, and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he was received him back safe and sound. But he was angry, and refused to go in. His father came out and entered in. But he answered his father, look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat, that I might celebrate with my friends. Let's stop here. I want to say something here about this, that he addressed the father. He was there so many years, but his intentions, they weren't that good. Thank you. His intentions, they weren't that good. He was there so many years, but in the end of the day, now he shows that his expectations were others, beyond serving the father. His expectations was others beyond being with the Father. Thank you. In the house of the Father. His expectations were to get something in exchange. In this case, like many cases in the church, this recognition. We like the recognition, the clapping in the back, the people telling you how good you are, how great you do your things, how good you do your things, and we like that. The problem with the clapping in the back, it took me time to understand, and then I finally understood because of somebody also ministered to my life, as I have also somebody that ministered to my life, is that the clapping in the back telling you that you are so good and you do everything so beautifully and this and that, it will end in a frustration, because in the end of the day, you know that you are not that good. You know that sometimes you sit down, considering the work we do, sometimes we do the things very lazy. We don't put our effort, we sit down, we are not that motivated. We all know the way we do the things. But then, for others, you can come and say, you know what, you are doing a great job, you are doing very well, this and that. But eventually you are not. And that will result in your frustration, because you know that you are not giving you all. You are not giving the all that you have. So this man, or this elder brother, look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command, like throwing in his face. Because I've been doing this, you should also see serving me a young goat, in order for me to celebrate with my friends. Who is he? Who is he? Who is he? How many we say that? Who is he? I saw that already, even in the ministry, all over the world. Somebody that has more years in Rimar, in the ministry than another person, and that person goes up a bit quicker, maybe becomes a much faster becomes a pastor, and is like, who is he? He got here yesterday. He is already with this, all these benefits, and then. And who are we to say, who is he? But many times, even that we don't say the sentence, we act like, who is he? Why has and I don't? Why is there and I'm not? Me and Rita in Swaziland, we told a couple, you mustn't ask why we are here, because they clearly they told us, why are you here? Was two subjects there. They had more time in Rimar than me and Rita, and another second subject was they were elder than us, much elder. So was right after we arrived in Swaziland, and they asked, so why are you here? Why they chose you to be here? He said, you shouldn't ask why we are here. You should ask why you are not here. This is how we answer them. The question you have to do to yourself is, why it is not me that is here doing this? Because apparently it should be you, but it's not. So you must ask, you must look all around you why your life is not in order or not for you to be here. It's not about the other always, it's always about us. When it comes about the other, in Christianity, it's about serving, it's about giving, it's about moving in compassion. That's always about others. When it's about yourself,